I'm in Philly because there are major developments here in a legal case that we've been following for years here on The Lead involving CJ Rice, who is now a free man. As of this morning, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania officially considers CJ Rice to be legally innocent of the crimes he was convicted of in 2013. District Attorney Larry Krasner dropped all charges and exonerated him today. Now, you might remember me talking about this case on CNN and in an Atlantic magazine cover story in October 2022. CJ Rice was sentenced to 30 to 60 years in prison. 30 to 60 years for a 2011 shooting in which no one was seriously injured. I know about the case because my dad, Dr. Theodore Tapper, was CJ Rice's pediatrician at the time and testified at court that it was medically impossible for CJ Rice to have carried out this crime, shooting the victims and running away, because CJ Rice at that time was recovering from surgery since he had been shot 3 weeks before and his pelvis had been shattered. He could barely walk at the time, much less run. Now, it became clear from investigating this case for The Atlantic and CNN that CJ Rice had an incompetent defense attorney, that court-appointed counsel, Sanjay Weaver, who failed to bring up his medical records or pull his cell phone data that would have confirmed his alibi, who didn't challenge the complete concoction of conjecture that was the supposed motive for the shooting, and on and on and on, bad decision after bad decision. Now, after following CJ Rice's case and fighting for CJ Rice's conviction to be overturned for years, with my father leading the way and an incredible legal team challenging the conviction, I am happy to report that CJ was finally released from prison in December.
Hey, man.
What's up, Jake?
How about it?
What's going on?
How about it? Oh, it's good to see you. Oh, it's good to see you, man.
Today's ruling brings even more good news for CJ because not only is he out of prison, Judge James Eisenhower granted him a habeas petition which overturns his conviction, drops all charges against CJ Rice, forever clearing his name. His attorneys will now file to have that criminal record expunged. If you want to help CJ Rice as he begins to rebuild his life, you can check out the GoFundMe set up by Dream.org. All of the money goes right to CJ Rice so he can go to school and buy groceries and start to rebuild his life. Here is a look now at CJ Rice's story and how we got here. Finally, CJ Rice is free and exonerated. And in the eyes of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, innocent of the crime for which he served more than 12 years in prison. It has been a journey. For years, my dad, pediatrician Dr. Theodore Tapper, has been telling me about CJ Rice, his former patient, doing 30 to 60 years in prison for a crime my father insists Rice could physically not have committed.
It was impossible.
In 2020, I took a look into the case and wrote this 2022 cover story for The Atlantic magazine, arguing that CJ Rice had had inadequate counsel, an attorney who acted so incompetently CJ did not get the fair trial guaranteed him under the U.S. Constitution. The piece was called "This Is Not Justice: A Philadelphia Teenager and the Empty Promise of the Sixth Amendment." And today, the court granted the motion offered by Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, agreeing with CJ Rice's attorneys, Carl Schwartz and Amelia Maxfield, that Rice was denied his Sixth Amendment rights to effective counsel.
It would be a violation of my oath to retry a case when we know that if you put all of the reliable evidence forward, it doesn't establish proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Krasner's office has acknowledged that the case handled by prior prosecutors was weak from the start, that there wasn't much evidence at all. No DNA, no weapon, no footage, no solid, unimpeachable witness tying Rice to the September 2011 nighttime shooting and wounding of 4 people.
This is the position where one of the shooters was, the one that was ID'd as CJ Rice, the night of September 25th, 2011. The eyewitness testified that he was 20 feet away. 20 feet away, however, would actually have put him like here. This is 20 feet away. Where I was before all the way over there. That's more like 50 feet away.
Witnesses said they saw the gunman running, but my dad had examined the 17-year-old CJ Rice just 5 days earlier, and he insisted CJ was in no condition to run.
He had staples in his abdomen over approximately an 8 or 9 inch surgical incision from his breastbone straight down as far as you could go.
That's because 3 weeks earlier, CJ Rice had been shot 3 times in a case CJ says was mistaken identity.
There was no way this young man, 5 days after I saw him, was running anywhere, let alone walking fast.
The one eyewitness who fingered CJ had known him for years. She initially and repeatedly told police she could not identify the gunman, as one of Rice's attorneys, Jason Kadish, told me.
I think it was approximately 20 hours where she had spoken to at least, I think it was 3 different officers, and had never said, this is somebody that's in my neighborhood.
But overnight, police claimed a confidential informant told them that Rice may have been involved. So a detective then showed this photo array to the eyewitness, and she then fingered Rice. When Rice was named as a suspect, his mother, Crystal Cooper, met him at the police station so that he could turn himself in.
And the detective took his arm to help him walk up the stairs.
CJ Rice's family could not afford legal counsel, so court-appointed private attorney Sanjay Weaver took his case. And Weaver, who died in 2019, did not provide CJ with an adequate defense. A source in the DA's office tells me that the witness's testimony would not stand up to any competent defense attorney.
She stated that Mr. Rice had braids hanging down around his face with a hoodie tied up around it. When we looked at the arrest photo for Mr. Rice, he actually had cornrows. So there was no way that he would have been able to have braids hanging down the side of his face.
Though, perhaps tellingly, it had been in long braids in the photo from the police lineup that the witness was shown from a previous drug charge. Another part of the DA's review that helped them arrive at this decision, CJ had told Weaver over and over to get the location data for his cell phone. It would prove that he was at the time in West Philadelphia, not the South Philadelphia site of the shooting. But Sanjay Weaver never got that data, nor did the police.
After the trial, then CJ started telling me, oh, she should have did this. I told her to do this. She didn't listen to me.
The DA's office reviewed old recorded courthouse phone conversations and heard CJ Rice begging his mom to push Sanjay Weaver, his attorney, to get those phone records to prove his alibi.
If this case had occurred yesterday, it is very likely that it wouldn't be so murky, that we would have phone records that would geolocate to exactly where Mr. Rice was, or pretty close to exactly where he was.
There were any number of hideous omissions in Sanjay Weaver's incompetent defense of CJ Rice. Attorney Carl Schwartz zeroed in on Weaver allowing into evidence the concocted motive that this was a retaliatory shooting for when CJ Rice was shot, though neither the DA nor the Philly police had any evidence connecting the 2 shootings. The case has consumed my father's life for the better part of the last decade, and though both he and CJ Rice are celebrating today, they believe that the prisons are packed with others just like him.
There are probably 10 or 20 or 40,000 people who are serving time behind bars who are not guilty of the crime for which they are serving time.
I sat down with CJ one-on-one a few days ago for the first time since he'd been released. We talked about what it felt like to finally be free and the letters he exchanged with my dad while he was behind bars.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Jake.
You've spent almost 13 years in prison. How does it feel to be out?
It feels amazing.
You said the air tastes sweeter.
Air tastes sweeter. The sunshine different. It's a different warmth. To feel the sun as a free man, that's... Can't put it into words.
So these letters from my dad, did you look forward to getting them?
I did.
Yeah?
I did. Like a lot.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a constant. So you get used to constants in jail, but most of them are demeaning or not so personal. But a letter with ink on it from somebody on the other side of the wall, that's personal.
Yeah.
That makes you feel human. the care and concern that your father had for me was genuine.
My dad always says that we don't have a justice system, we have a legal system, but there's no justice necessarily.
I can attest to that. I can attest to that.
We're back with more on our Law and Justice Lead and more on the major developments in C.J. Rice's legal case. As we told you at the top of the hour and earlier today, C.J. Rice is now a free man. He's out of prison. His conviction has been overturned. He has been fully exonerated, but he did not do this on his own. In fact, his legal team, Carl Schwartz and Amelia Maxfield, foremost perhaps among them, have been fighting for CJ's release for years, along with a team of other attorneys. And finally today, justice has finally been served in the CJ Rice case. And with me now are both Carl Schwartz and Amanda Maxfield. To both of you, congratulations on what you achieved today. Amelia, let me start with you. You were with the Innocence Project. You're now with the Exoneration Project. CJ is out of prison. His conviction has been overturned. How does this moment feel for you as an attorney?
It feels great. I think the primary thing I'm feeling right now is relief, honestly, but I am really thrilled for CJ. As you know, as well as anyone, Jake, CJ has been fighting for this for more than 12 years, for almost 13 years. He has really kept this fight alive and been at the center of all of this. So I'm just really happy for him that he's gotten this outcome and that he can move on with his life now.
And Carl, you were the captain of the ship here that got this habeas petition filed and granted. CJ can now pursue having his record for attempted murder expunged. What is that process like? How soon are you going to start doing it? How quickly can it be expunged?
It's pretty straight. You know what, Jake? You know, it was a big ship, and credit is also due to Neelam Sanghvi of the Pennsylvania Innocence Project and Don Varelli, former Solicitor General, and Ginger Anderson, and we shouldn't forget them. This was very much a team
Absolutely.
effort. The expungement,
absolutely,
the expungement should be pretty straightforward and fairly routine, and certainly warranted. And we will go about the business of getting that done as quickly as possible. It's not terribly involved.
Amelia, today at the district attorney's press conference, District Attorney Krasner, he would not say for certain whether CJ was innocent or not innocent. Is that typical of this type of thing?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously as CJ's advocates, as his attorneys, we have a very different perspective on this. This is typical. Legally, as a legal matter, CJ has been exonerated. He is innocent. And also factually, he is innocent as well. The DA's office, in deciding not to retry this case, did a very thorough reinvestigation, perhaps the investigation that should have been done from the beginning of this case. And it's important to note that it turned up no inculpatory evidence against CJ, and in fact, only led to more exculpatory evidence. So I think an important point to make here is that this isn't a case where we have a DNA profile proving scientifically that someone else committed this crime, but that does not mean that CJ is not innocent. That does not affect the import of this exoneration for him and for others like him in the criminal justice system. Most exonerations in this country look like this case.
And Carl, a source in the DA's office told me that ultimately they concluded not only was the case against CJ always weak, but they think that the only reason he even went to prison is because his defense attorney, who has passed away, was so incompetent she actually helped get him convicted. His habeas relief, he's out of prison because of your argument that he was denied his U.S. constitutional right to a legal defense, to a competent defense. How rare is that? I mean, I have, as you know from when I covered the Atlantic story, and you know better than I mean, people have been drunk at a trial, defense attorneys drunk at a trial, arrested on their way to trial, falling asleep during the trial. And higher courts still said, no, that's fine. That's adequate representation. To be granted habeas relief for this, it doesn't happen very often.
It's too rare, Jake. And you know what? The limitations over the past, decade or so that have been put on habeas proceedings and habeas representation makes it even rarer. And that's really regrettable, especially what we've learned about exculpatory evidence being, the prosecution has a responsibility, and in many jurisdictions, they don't take it very seriously. And often evidence of innocence, exculpatory evidence, is not uncovered until well after the trial. And that's just a fact of life, and it's not the defendant's fault in many cases. There was some such evidence in this case as well. And the more you limit the ability to develop that evidence after the fact, the more innocent people spend their lives in jail or even worse. And that's been the trend lately in our jurisprudence, and it's very regrettable and at a great cost, I think.
Carl Schwartz and Amelia Maxfield, just an honor to know you both. Congratulations again on this amazing legal work.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you, Jake.